you wouldn't mind taking your seats, we're going to go ahead and get started here in about 15 or 30 seconds. 15. Well, my name is Matt Grossadier, and I'm currently serving as the president of the Student Alumni Board.
And I'm Molly Bassett. I'm the vice president of campus programming for SAB.
And on behalf of SAB, we'd like to welcome you all to the 6th Annual Distinguished Young Alumni. Before we go ahead and get started, I'd like to take a second to thank a few people. First, I'd like to thank the Alumni Association and our board of directors for all the work that they do, helping out with the programs that SAB puts on, in particular this one with the Distinguished Young Alumni. In particular, I'd like to thank our president and CEO, Amy Button-Renz. She always supports us in everything that we do, and we couldn't do anything without her, so thanks, Amy. As well, I'd like to thank President Richard Myers and Dr. Bosco for their continued support of the Distinguished Young Alumni Program since its inception 6 years ago. And lastly, we'd like to give a warm welcome to the 2 recipients and their families who were able to make it.
And now, just to give you guys a little bit of background on Student Alumni Board. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with SAB, we're a group of about 40 students who serve the university by seeking to connect past, present, and future Wildcats to the Alumni Association. Over the past 8 months, our members of SAB have been working behind the scenes really hard on this programming to sort of give our DYA recipients a warm welcome here on campus. Our DYA awardees are under the age of 35 alumni who were very successful at K-State and have been successful beyond, and so we wanted to bring them back to campus to sort of honor them for their achievements. So our honorees this year are Mr. Bryce Hushka and Miss Megan McCall.
Yeah, so in just a second, we will introduce Megan, but before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. After Megan's presentation, we will have a short reception out in the lobby out there, and we'll do that for about 20 minutes, and then we'll come in, and Bryce will be the second presenter at around 4:30.
Excellent. Well, our first speaker, a native of Goodland, Kansas, is currently working as a remote on-call bridge coordinator for the Rose Brooks Center's Bridge Program. While at K-State, she was a member of Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society, the Conversational English Program. She served as treasurer of the Flint Hills Human Rights Project as well. She also volunteered and worked at the Crisis Center, the domestic violence shelter that serves Riley, Clay, Geary, Marshall, and Pottawatomie counties. So without further ado, please welcome us in join us in welcoming Megan McCall.
Also, I forgot to mention, we will have a Q&A session after her keynote, so be thinking of some questions for her.
Award. I had a cold and I had a 13-hour day yesterday of going around and talking to students, and I wanted to conserve my voice, but they were so inspiring and awesome I couldn't stop talking to them. So this is what I've got today. Thank you for your patience. Okay. I'm really, really honored to be here today to talk to you. And it was been so awesome to come back to K-State. It's been years since I came to campus, and it looks totally different. So I'm going to talk to you about where I came from and what my undergraduate career has looked like. I will go through my agenda. Let me start my presentation. All right. So my keynote, just to kind of sum it up, is that it's all about building connections. Describing my career has been about building connections and asking all the questions. That's what sociology has taught me to do. They described what my career is right now, and I'm going to tell you what I hope it to be. Also, I have a much better voice than this. I wish I could really be talking to you. We just moved there in June. Okay, so my wife made me this excellent hat. I have learned over time to just embrace some things that sometimes people might call negative stereotypes that people might put upon us. As you can see, it says feminist killjoy. This is my favorite hat. All right, so I'm going to talk about my roots. I am from a really small town in Kansas. I'll tell you a little bit about that first. No, come back. I'll tell you a little bit about my undergraduate career. Then about my experience in grad school. That was fun. A brief overview about my career for the past 11 years. Overarching, it's been about ending violence against women and children. And then some advice, mostly about what keeps me going, and I hope that this helps you. All right, so my roots, I'm from Western Kansas. When I say Western Kansas, I don't mean Salina. I am from Western Kansas. I am from a mountain time zone Kansas. Did you know that exists? We had to travel. We are from a tiny part of Kansas that is actually in mountain time. This is a mentor of mine. Her name is Tanya. She is from Colby, Kansas. It is 30 minutes away from Goodland. They are in Central Time Zone. It is bizarre. I don't know why. It is such a thing. People in Goodland would say that we are on God's time because we are trying to make sense of it. It was bonkers. Okay. All right. So this is one of our signs. It says that Kansas begins here. We are on the Colorado border. This is a shirt that is in our Walmart. Where the heck is Goodland, Kansas? Bro, you're here. Okay. We also have a 70-foot tall Van Gogh painting on an easel, hoping to get people to stop there. This is a picture of me as an angelfish. The little cheerleader to the... I don't know. I'm really bad at directions, apparently. She's right next to me, the little blonde. She is also a K-Stater. She graduated in baking science. That's Megan Leonard. I don't know if anyone knows her. The Tweety bird, who is larger than life size. She went to KU. I kind of cut her off. That was rude. That's Jocelyn Lucas, and she's a teacher in Tonganoxie. Okay, enough of that. A big part of my life has been my Uncle Rick. He was an artist, and he really encouraged me to embrace what was weird and different, and also to find beauty in what was around me. So, like cows and spaceships. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of spaceships in Kansas, but I find them fascinating, so I really like the X-Files. And he painted lots of tornadoes and stuff. But he passed away in 2014. He's been a big part of my life. But he's always encouraged me to be myself. Here's my family. They're in the front row here. My parents were both teachers, and my dad was a junior high math teacher, and my mother was a second grade teacher, and they instilled in me how important education is, and have always pushed us to just go for our dreams, and have always been a big inspiration to me. My sister, though. Oh, this is not my sister. This is my grandma. I really love her. She was an army nurse, and she's a badass. Excuse my language. She is awesome, and she lived down the block from us. My grandfather was a shop teacher, a wrestling coach, a farmer. So he also taught school, and she was just this super smart lady who raised 6 kids, and just was super kind. So I love her very much. Now my sister, she and I were really close. She's 3 years younger than me. One of my best friends. We've never lived far. That's also not my sister. That's my dad. We've never lived very far apart from each other, except when I moved to Tucson in June, so it's been kind of hard, but I love that girl. She's pretty great. Okay, that's in our town. Okay, moving on. Okay, undergraduate degree. I came to K-State, and there were so many opportunities. I'm from a really small town, very, very white, very, very kind of insulated. I loved it. It was a great place to grow up, but K-State offered me this like wide open opportunity to experience so many different things, and it was wonderful. One of the first things that I did, okay, in high school we did have an opportunity to do the American Field Service. Has anyone ever heard of that? Where you get to have foreign exchange students come to your high school. I got really involved in that in high school. So I joined the conversational English program when I came to K-State. Can people hear me okay? I would feel so bad if no one could hear anything at the end. Okay. So I made good friends with a student named John Keegan from Seoul, and we loved getting barbecue. We found a mutual love of barbecued meats, and we'd go to Aggieville and get barbecue a lot. And I would go to the coffee hours at the International Student Center often. That was great. This woman, so when I first came to K-State, I was thinking I either want to be a forensic scientist or I want to be a police officer. And I took an intro to sociology class, and I met with Susan Williams, who I haven't gotten to see yet in my time here, but I hope I get to see her sometime. And I started talking to her about kind of things that I was interested in, and she told me about women's studies degrees. She told me about a violence against women course, and she told me about a, what is it called, social construction of serial murder course. And I was interested. I was super interested. So, are you all familiar with Tinder? I know that was kind of random. Sorry. We're gonna play a game, okay? Okay. So I'm gonna ask you if you recognize any of these faces. Should we swipe left or swipe right? Do you know who this is? Swipe right. Is that a yes? Oh, I don't even know. I've never played. Do you know who this is? Raise your hand if you know who it is. Yeah, who is it? It is. Yes. So this is Ed Gain, and he is the serial killer from Iowa, who is the kind of the basis for Leatherface. Like, what is the movie called? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes. He would kill women and make suits out of their clothes, make clothes out of their bodies, out of their skin. So he killed a few women, but mostly he would go to graves and dig up the corpses. So for the most part, he would just go deface corpses. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay. Do you know who this is? Yes, Charles Manson. Left or right? I don't know. Just kidding. Okay. Who's this? Okay, Bundy. Okay. I'm just kidding with y'all. Okay. So that I helped her out with this course, and I was just fascinated with sociology and criminology. But I really found my calling when she told me about a violence against women course through the Women's Studies department. There was a instructor called Melissa Devine. I took a violence against women course, and it changed my life. This was just my freshman year. I did not know that domestic violence affects 1 in 3 women. And when I say 1 in 3 women, I mean 1 in 3 children, if children are in those homes. That means, in this room, how many of us that has that affected? So I started volunteering. I learned that there is a shelter in Manhattan, and I started volunteering immediately. And I have been doing that work for 11 years. So I have this woman to thank. I have the sociology department to thank. It has really changed my life. Where are you? Okay, Natalie. Natalie was an advocate who trained me at the Crisis Center. She's been an amazing person in my life to help me become the advocate that I am today. This is me in a hotline. It's like a very first selfie. It's not good. Okay. This is me at a Take Back the Night rally. That's another thing that I did. It was really great. Supporting survivors of sexual violence. I am a survivor of sexual violence. I know that many of us are. I also had a minor in Spanish, and I have some of my Spanish professors here, and they're so amazing and inspiring to me. My nominating professor, Dr. Middendorf, I have such trouble recognizing where people are. He was wonderful, and Dr. Wood was so wonderful to me, and you really showed me in the work that I've done, you've shown me that men can be kind, and men can be encouraging, and can be allies, and that has meant so much to me. It really has. So thank you. Okay, this is weird. Sorry. I put this in here because I had to miss class a couple times because I got really stressed, and I had this weird condition where my lips would swell up, and I had to take a picture to send it to my Spanish teacher because I was like, I'm not lying. It's really weird. And she was calling me Angelina Jolie for a while. This is, I graduated. I also wanted to remember a really important professor in my time here in undergrad. Dr. Roy Barnett, excuse me. He was the sponsor for our criminology club. And he was just incredibly kind as well. And he passed away about 6 years ago. And just really encouraging and wonderful. So just thank you to him. So I want to just share some pieces that I carry with me today from my undergraduate degree that I use all the time in my work. One of those pieces is that perception is reality, that our reality is socially constructed. You know, those things that we just take for granted all the time, like race and gender. If this is not something that you studied before, this can seem like crazy. But to read and to have these conversations and to take a sociology class or to have a discussion with someone who studied this, or just to read about it online, this really, really helped me understand and helped to understand people that I work with better, to understand myself better, and to be better able to help people that I'm helping, that I want to help. Excuse me. And even though that it is socially constructed, that it has life and death consequences, especially for minority groups. When I'm working with minority populations, something that I have learned over time, that bringing those voices those voices of the people that I'm working with into the conversation. That's so vital. That I'm not making decisions for someone else. That basically that no decision should be made for this person without them. Nothing about me without me. Does that make sense? And a big piece is access. And a big piece of that, in line with that, is about privilege. If we are the ones who have that privilege, and that can come either from having resources, from being of a certain economic group, of a certain race, a certain class, a certain gender. We need to make sure if we have that privilege, we need to be responsible for bringing others who don't have that privilege to the table so that they can help make those decisions with us and have a voice. Not so that we are like being that voice for them, but that they can have their own voice so we can amplify their voice. Does that make sense? And I just wanted to make this note. I am so incredibly honored to get this award. Like, it came at this time where I was really struggling, and it totally it inspired me. I did want to say, just kind of looking at who has received the award so far, I would just encourage the board so far, maybe just to look at who has had access to the award, and maybe just to look at who we can invite to the award moving forward. But thank you so much for inviting me. I am super honored. And I just want to say to my professors, instructors, and my colleagues, you have taught me. I've learned so much from you. You have pushed me to think critically, and I'm always asking questions every day. I am always that person who is pushing back, particularly around systems of oppression and inequality. Now to get weird again. My first Facebook picture. Yay. This is still undergrad. Okay. I want to make a slide about my first boyfriend because this is pretty cool. We did the Citizens Police Academy together. This is when I was going the police officer route. This is a bomb technician suit. This is him, and that's me right there. This is that huge blizzard. I don't know if any of us were here during that time. I was here, clearly. That's me. It was in December of 2007, but this was finals. Campus was shut down. We did not have power in our apartment for a week. It was nuts. This is us graduating. We met in sociology, intro to sociology, and he liked ska music. I did not like ska music, but he was so nice. We were together 6 years. I call it figuring out myself. I am not a straight lady, but he was so wonderful that I was with him for 6 years. I just wanted to give an update about him because he is the kindest, sweetest, funniest guy in the world, and his name's Joe Grisella, and he is a captain in the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department now, and so I'm super proud of him. We're still friends. Okay. Grad school. I had the opportunity to work for Dr. Dana Britton on an advanced institutional grant as a research assistant. She was studying the transformation, the experience of women in the STEM fields, science fields, as they were trying to get full professorship, because that can be really hard. So I was transcribing interviews and helping set them up. And she was traveling all over the United States. I got So I wore a really cool hat, and I made this sign to support our graduates. And here are some more lovely people graduating. Okay, yay, grad school. So I'm going to briefly go over my career. How much time do I have? Oh my God, okay. Yay, okay. I worked at the Crisis Center. The Crisis Center, I was a police response advocate here in Manhattan, going out on crime scenes to provide safety planning with law enforcement when a domestic violence incident would occur. I worked overnight in shelter with women and children in a 30-bed shelter. That job is the reason why I've continued to do what I'm doing. It really changed my life. It's where I got, the passion for my career. I call them my shelter sisters. I then went to the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence in Topeka. There is a state coalition in every state, and they provide training to every domestic violence program across the state to help them, get accredited and get funding to run and serve survivors. Then I moved to Kansas City, Kansas, and I was a refugee caseworker. And I specifically helped refugees who had high medical needs. I also would be brought in if there was domestic violence or child abuse or mental health needs. That was a wonderful job. And I served refugees from Bhutan, from Burma, from Somalia. I learned so much about refugees. It was wonderful. I then worked as a hospital advocate in a safe home in Overland Park, Kansas. And I met Mary Ann, who is lovely, and I want to be her when I grow up. Then I worked at Rosebrook Center, and it is a magical place. Rosebrook is in Kansas City, Missouri, and that is a place that I'm still connected to from Tucson because technology is amazing. There I worked in a variety of positions, but the position that I'm really, really passionate about is a bridge coordinator. It has nothing to do with bridges. It's a hospital advocacy program that provides 24-hour response to victims who are screened in hospital emergency rooms by nurses and social workers. We train them to ask a series of questions. Are you safe at home? Is someone hurting you or making you feel afraid? Is someone threatening you? And when they say yes, or if the professional feels that they feel like they are, they will call us, Rosebrooks, and we'll respond immediately, any time of day, to meet with that person, to file emergency orders of protection, to safety plan to help them find safe shelter. It's an amazing, amazing program. And I have worked there maybe a total of 5 years. So that was an amazing job, and I learned so much. For a brief time, I worked with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, providing death notification. That was tough. I wasn't there very long, but it was amazing. I've also provided diversity training for the Kansas Academy of Victim Assistance. I've volunteered with Passages, providing support for LGBT teens. Okay, pictures. Now I am in Tucson. I am volunteering again with refugees at a resettlement agency there. Isn't that adorable? It's a rainbow baby. Bringing me up to now, I am wanting to start my own nonprofit in Tucson. I want to start a hospital advocacy response program in Tucson, very similar to what Rosebrooks does. So when I finish this, I believe getting that call for this award really inspired me, encouraged me that I can do this. That's me. That's Bitmoji Megan. cases. So I'm going to talk about a local case. And I'm sorry if I go over a little bit. Okay. Amanda Bonner Rodman was born in Manhattan, and she died in Manhattan. She was born on January 26, 1988. She was the daughter of Beverly Bonner and Melvin Rodman. She attended schools in Manhattan, Westmoreland, and Wamego. Amanda was employed by Three Rivers as a certified nurse aide in home health care and an IRS certified tax preparer. Amanda was full of courage, her heart was loud, and she followed her dreams no matter how big they were. She took the time to appreciate the moment, and she was good to herself. She was very generous. She loved to dance and have fun. She treasured her children, ages 4 and 5, and every moment she spent with them. She believed in embracing new possibilities and made friends everywhere she would go. She inspired everyone and was always brave, spontaneous, and optimistic. She surrounded herself with love and laughter, even if there were a few bumps along the way. Amanda was a very forgiving person who learned new things each and every day, which was a signature of growth. She created happiness in life. She was never a stranger to anyone, which was just the way she was. She is now in the arms of an angel, forever loved, always remembered, and never forgotten. She's survived by her 2 children. She was taken from her family on December 30th, 2011. Her partner took her life and then killed himself. She tried to leave him, and this is an article that was just in the paper, in the Manhattan paper. It says a previous protection from abuse order had been filed by Ms. Bonner, but it had been dropped prior to the incident. I just want to say that it doesn't matter, when an abusive person makes the decision to end someone's life, it doesn't matter what the victim does or doesn't do, if they drop an order or not. It's that person's choice to end someone's life. I just wanted to highlight her life and who she was and remember her, and just to show you that she is me and we are her, and it can happen to anyone. And she is why I do what I do. And she's so beautiful. I'm almost done, I promise. This is an event that we do every year for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's called Silent Witnesses. This is Detective Darla King in the picture. In the middle, I worked with her at the police department, where we have real people from Kansas. They do it all over the nation when they read their stories. And usually it's like very current stories about who was killed. 3 women are murdered every day in this country by a loved one, and that's just the United States. I know that Kansas State is a research university. In my career, I've lost, in the past 11 years, I've lost 7 clients. And that's just the ones that I know about. And only one of their abusers have served any kind of time. One of them was strangled to the ground and had a stroke and died. And like 20 people saw her being strangled at like a bus stop. But she had a stroke and then passed away in the hospital. And they ruled her death as a natural death because it was from a stroke. And that happens all the time. So I want research to be done about how many domestic violence deaths go unreported or are linked to domestic violence, but are listed as natural deaths. Does that make sense? I'm going to read a little bit of this poem and then I'll wrap up. This is a poem called Remember My Name. If my death reminds you how beautiful, how worthy you really are, if my death reminds you to honor all you are daily, then remember my name, shout it from the center of your soul. Wake me in my grave, let me know my living was not in vain. And I'll go through my advice really quick. One thing that I've learned over the years is that your life is precious. No matter what career you're in, you need to take care of yourself. Because you cannot help other people if you are hurting. So I just have things that make me feel better, like my dog and music and Netflix and my grandma and donuts and roller derby. And I had really bad migraines and depression, and I had to get an MRI, and I had to get counseling. So I just wanted to say that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to get help because you deserve to feel better. Also, this is my wife, and she's a hottie. And we like Halloween a lot. And we make our costumes. And she's Legolas and I'm Gimli. And we met at K-State, so thank you, K-State. Also, she is the Eeyore to my Pooh Bear. Also, like I told you about my uncle, just be weird because the people who, the good people will accept you for who you are. You are magical. And really cool people will make you an award that says you're Velociraptor of the Year. And really cool people will dress up like, oh my gosh, I almost said Gandalf. Oh my gosh. I forgot his name. Help me out. From Harry Potter. Dumbledore. Thank you. Shame on me. So here's some corny things that I believe with all my heart. Everything you can imagine is real. The world is before you, and you need not take it or leave it as it was when you came in. Your heart is a muscle the size of your fist. Keep loving and keep fighting. Thank you.
Awesome. Great work, Megan. We have about 2 minutes for questions real quick. No worries. And for all of our friends who are live streaming, we're going to have the people who are asking the questions use the microphone so they can still hear you. So if anybody has a question, I will bring the mic to you. Anybody? You said you got one? Oh, I'm sorry. Over here? Yeah.
First, I want to say thank you, Megan, for all the work that you've done. And I want to ask a question. You said in your career overview that you're working to end violence against women and children, and we know how critically important that is, and the story that you told illustrates that. But what I'm wondering and what I'm thinking about, just in terms of what's happened to the discipline of women's studies over the past 20 years, is how we can expand that. And so, for example, should we be thinking about ending violence against women and children and LGBTQ people and people of color? And how do we keep that approach in mind? I'm just wondering if you could reflect on that a little bit and what maybe you could see the field of anti-violence doing in order to address that more expansive way of thinking about ending violence?
So, at different places that I've worked, what I have found is that when we're doing a much better job, it's when we are working better with other community groups, when we are taking a more community-based focus, when we are working together, when we are, like, after the current administration happened, we realized we need to come out and say, as an agency, if I can say that, that, we are, this is a safe place at Rosebrooks. Like, we accept everyone. We're working with the Kansas City Anti-Violence Project, which serves the LGBT community. We are going to be proactive about doing trainings for our staff so that we're going to be better serving communities of color. Like, instead of stumbling and serving, like doing a disservice to people after the fact and like hurting people, like so that people are not going to be coming to our shelter. So, because at the end of the day, we're not in different silos. Like, it's all about ending violence against everyone. Like, we're all doing the same work. I'm sorry, that was not a great. That was
really helpful.
Okay.
And we're actually going to have to wrap up our Q&A right now, just so we have time for the reception. But I would encourage you to ask Megan questions outside in the lobby if you have any more. Thanks again.
All right, so as Matt said, we're going to now have a brief reception out in the lobby right outside of Town Hall. So if you want to join us for light refreshments and cookies, we'll be out there. And then please follow your Student Alumni Board members to come back into the room and take your seats by about 4:20 for Mr. Bryce Hushka's keynote. And as a reminder, Catalyst students, please find William Orth at the refreshments table. He will have a card swipe reader for you to do your attendance points for our first large lecture. So, thank you.